Welcome to Superintendent's Roundtable. I'm Deborah Vinsel from Thurston Community Television. We get together periodically with the superintendents of our local school districts to talk about issues affecting education in our community and what's coming up in the future for students in our districts. I'm pleased to have with me again at the roundtable the superintendents from the 4 large districts in Greater Thurston County. Bill Lahmann from the Olympia School District, Raj Manhas from the North Thurston Public Schools, Mike Kirby from Tumwater School District, and Andy Wolf from the Yelm Community Schools. So thank you again for taking time. I know this is a busy time of year. We're headed toward the end of the school year, and this is our last roundtable of the year, so I'm glad you could join us today. We've had an interesting first half of 2012. The legislature took a little longer than we had hoped to come to a final budget conclusion. But I'd like for you all to share generally how you feel education K-12, and if you have some thoughts about K-20, how it fared in the budget that was recently passed, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it has affected each of your districts. So Bill, we're going to start with you.
Well, it's an interesting spot to be in when we're really excited because we didn't have any cuts. It's one to where over the last many years we've had cuts that have come out of the budget. Now, the most recent session didn't give us any cuts. Their special session in December impacted us, but we're pleased. I think that the state Supreme Court ruling on the school funding case helped set the stage to where the legislature now needs to. They were instructed to step up to the plate and actually fully fund. So their first step was not to cut us any further. And so we're looking forward to the future to where we actually see some additional revenue coming in. So for the Olympia School District, we're still having to make cuts because of the previous cuts, and we were using our fund balance to help cushion that. But it's nice not to have any additional cuts.
Raj?
Well, I look at local levy part of the basic funding. It's really, that has become kind of consistent part of our work. But state level, as Bill said, no further cuts was really a good news because they have really got down to the sort of bottom of funding. Now the issue for us as a district, we made some significant cuts in the last couple of years. I'm pleased to say that we will continue our programs, what we have right now, but I hope also that this is the bottom, that we can get better as a state and fund properly all children, all school systems.
So no harm to the district, but still
yes,
not that full funding that has been pushed forward.
And then that is the hope. As I said, I think the community support has been amazing, understanding throughout the state that the education has been cut to the bare bones. So I look at this an opportunity for the state as the economy comes back. Let's look at this as a top priority.
Mike?
Well, similar to Bill and Raj, if somebody would have told us in December 1st that we weren't going to be cut, we'd all been pretty ecstatic, and that's a little scary to be happy about the fact that you've only lost $2.5 million in funding over the last 3 or 4 years, and you weren't going to lose any more. Mm-hmm. But we were happy about that, and the Supreme Court decision, I think, is huge for us moving ahead. I know that the governor candidates are discussing how they're going to fund that in the future, and we all know that it's going to cost probably $2 billion extra to fund basic ed the way it's being defined. How that's going to happen will be really interesting for us. But more importantly, we'd just like to get back to 2008 levels in terms of funding. Because Tumwater's done a nice job of contracting over the last few years with the cuts, but with the new mandates for TPEP and now the health bill that's coming out, we have some non-funded mandates that are showing up as well. So But we are pleased with the legislative action for this year. Very pleased.
Andy?
Yeah, I'll echo all that. I think that basically we fared well. I think that, again, the cuts, they weren't there, which was exciting news. I will echo the position, though, that my concern still is for the future. How is education going to be funded? That hasn't been worked out, and that's a critical question for all of us as we go forward in this piece. Concerns, Mike touched on those. Again, the new healthcare piece. There's still a lot of unknowns there. How that will, those have been, how that compliance will look to that for us, and so those answers haven't, been provided, and so there's still concerns out there. But I think that we are very fortunate to be where we are right now.
So the legislature didn't do any more damage, but if you're still funded at below 2008 levels, do you anticipate making staffing cuts or programming cuts in your district? I'm going to start with you, Andy. Yeah, for the next school year?
You betcha. No, we anticipated, I think as most of us did, we tried to really get ahead of this curve as much as you could, because it did come fast and furious from 2008 till now as far as how those cuts are. So we anticipated those. We were very conservative actually 2 years ago and have kind of held on to that. So our programming will stay the same. We won't have to do any reduction in staff at this point in time. But we're not at probably the same level that we were in 2008. So we're continuing forward with our current programs, probably not much additional new happening, but that's kind of where we're faring.
Any reductions or changes in programs in Tumwater?
Any reductions we have this year will be due to enrollment, and we're hoping that our enrollment comes in pretty steady with what it was last year. If it does come in a little bit lower, then we'll adjust for that. But we aren't going to make any cuts. Anything we deal with will be through retirements and resignations. One caveat to this, though, is that as folks retire or leave the district, we're looking to reorganize a little bit to support the teacher principal evaluation piece, for example, it's a huge piece for us, and for every district it is a non-funded mandate. So we're shifting support for those programs so that we can actually implement them in a quality way.
Raj, any changes coming up in?
For us, it's good that we are a growing district. So we have been very conservative in planning, and that means, of course, the class size, we haven't said anything. Class sizes are a little larger, and they will continue to be.
What's your average class size?
Well, they're different at different grades, but when it gets to 30 plus, at middle and high, then it's a challenge.
Class.
But we are trying to manage as well as we can, and 40 some positions were reduced last year. And then, of course, there's some growth, and we have to have some teachers in the classrooms. So I look at this next year, maintaining the programs, and also looking at whatever areas we can, through technology and other means, be more efficient and apply whatever resources we have the most effective way.
Great. Bill?
We're going to be making some changes to improve efficiency. I'm recommending to the board that we change our start-stop times at our schools. And we're doing that right now so we can communicate with the parents before next fall. But we've been using our fund balance to cushion, and that fund balance is getting down to a point now to where we won't be able to use much of it to help offset the reductions. It would be nice to go back to the 2008 level, but we're not there. We don't have to, any reductions we do in staff will be through attrition, so we don't have to run a RIF process. But it's going to be minimal. We really have, like the other districts, planned for the reductions, but we still will be doing some things related to efficiency. As has been mentioned, there are a couple of new things that the legislature came up with that will require a significant amount of professional development, and they gave us no money for that. So we're having to carve money out of somewhere else to actually fund the training that goes with that requirement. It's the whole new evaluation process is the big one.
A mandate by any other name is it's a cut.
Yeah.
So interesting. So you all had successful levies this year. Congratulations. So how will the passage of those levies impact your schools? Raj?
Well, number one, I want to say that this whole region and the four of us here, we all work together It was all on the same sort of 4-year cycle. And that is a first for us after a long time. We were on a 2-year cycle. So I want to say thanks to my colleagues and the community at large that we all work together and our community and our own area and business community and parents and everyone else came together understanding that the state is not funding to the right level. So we are really pleased and want to say thanks to everyone. As far as the use of the money, I've said before, when 25% of the budget is the local levy, it has become the local portion of the basic funding. So it's absolutely critical because a lot of this money, 70-some% of this money goes into the classrooms in our case. And rest of it is just general programs, which we support. So we are very pleased. And the second part I want to say is that in our case, being on a 4-year cycle will, number one, reduce by half the cost to run elections.
Right.
And secondly, the voter fatigue, because it is absolutely needed anyway. So why every 2 years? And then when you have to run bonds, as we have to, and so it could be every year running stuff. So I'm very pleased with that.
How about you, Mike?
I would just like to add my appreciation for the work that the school districts have done together as well. I've been in other areas of the state, and this last election here was one of the best networked and collaborative situations that I've ever been part of. It was excellent. We shared resources, we saved dollars because of it. We were all on the same page, and our rotation is the same now too. So that'll save us in the future as well. In terms of levy, our levy this year is actually for 2012-13 is higher than it was for the previous year in a previously passed levy, and then we have additional funds. What it's allowed us to do is that we took $725,000 out of our fund balance last year to just pay for those programs that we had in place. Next year we assume that'll be about $450,000 out of that. So we're actually using the extra dollars that we're getting through levy as we move forward to run the programs that we currently can. So it's not really going to impact the students in the classroom or from an extracurricular standpoint. So we feel very fortunate. We're going to maintain our programs. The other piece, I guess, that I'd like to add to what Raj said is that a little over 20% now of our total funding is through levy, and half of that goes specifically for teachers. So we're putting the dollars where they should go, but that's a lot of funding to have on a levy. In other words, 9 to 10% of our total teaching staff is funded through levy now.
Well, and that's, when those dollars go into the classroom, other things that provide for an enriched educational environment have to be considered to, whether that's going to be doable.
Correct.
Andy, how did your levy work?
Obviously, successful. That was great. It's the highest number that we've passed in a long time, so that was good. We've been on a 4-year cycle, so we're very excited by the fact that everybody else was in that cycle now, because I think that's part of what's happening now, that we're doing a better job of looking down the road and how we can save costs, as a cohort, basically. And I think we did a good job that way. Our levy, we're very conservative. We stayed at about 80% of what the state said we could ask for. I think that serves our purpose. We'll maintain our programs at this point in time, and we'll actually be able to fund our all-day, everyday kindergarten program again out of levy dollars before we'd use I-728, and those pockets of money have now gone away. And so that allows us to continue with that process with no tuition or those types of things. So I think that we'll continue to grow our programs. We believe that we have the capacity, if we need to put in other student assistant type programs, that we'll still be able to do that. And just going down the road, we feel very fortunate.
Right. Bill, you also ran a bond.
Yes, we did.
So.
We were fortunate in that our levy passed, and almost a record number. Felt really good about the support that our community provided us. A little apprehension as the lawsuit was going through, and the Supreme Court said,
lawsuit.
The Supreme Court said, okay, legislature, you've got to fund that. Well, our community realized that wasn't going to happen tomorrow, and so they went ahead and supported us. And in addition, we ran a bond. It was a $97 million bond to do several projects, and our voters supported that too. It needed to get at least 60%. We got 62%, and so it was great. We're already moving forward with a remodel of Garfield Elementary School. We're getting into plans to rebuild our Olympia Regional Learning Academy that is in an old elementary school, Old Rogers Elementary School, that is in dire need of being replaced. And so we're doing that. Plus we'll be doing roofs and heating and all kinds of things. So really appreciated our community's support.
Great. Well, congratulations to
Thank
all of
you.
you. I know I was intrigued by the marketing of the levies, because
Yes, it was
wherever you went in these 4 districts, you saw the same black and yellow signs, you know, and I thought that was a really brilliant way to approach it, because it was the same message, as opposed to, you know, well, I'm in Tumwater, so I don't need to worry about the Tumwater School because I live in Olympia, but there was that sign, and then I saw that same sign on my street, so it really reinforced the message. So it was very successful.
Community leaders coming together, you know, they regularly met from all 4 school systems, and they did all of this work and saved money.
Yes.
So,
Well, congratulations. It's challenging to ask voters to consider things, even though, and we've talked about how it's also, I think, sometimes confusing that people see another one, didn't we just do this? And they sometimes don't recognize that it replaces one, it's ongoing funding, it's not extra money, it's continuation, but congratulations on that success and moving to that 4-year cycle. Really brilliant idea. So testing is going on right now for 3rd through 8th graders. And the grapevine says that the test may be changing yet again in a couple of years. That assessment seems to be kind of a moving target. So why don't you share with us what the Common Core, about the Common Core concept that they're using, and this new proposal that's coming out for nationwide standards and testings. We're going to start with you, Mike.
Well, we have a new strategic plan in place, and we also are working on the teacher principal evaluation. And we've known Common Core is coming at us. We haven't had a lot of time to really focus on that specifically. So,
what does that mean? When viewers hear Common Core, what is that?
Common Core is that basically national standards have been established now in language arts and mathematics. This fall, we're supposed to see the standards for science actually coming out as well. In 2014, the state of Washington is one of the, I think, 46 states now that have adopted the Common Core, and by 2014, we're supposed to have adopted the language arts and math standards. Along with that, a group from the state of Washington is actually facilitating the development of assessments to coincide with this. It's called Smarter Balance, that are going to be implemented, I think, in 2014 as well, on a pilot basis at least. So anyway, we have this preparation work to do. The state of Washington, we've already gone through this process of ELRs and then GLEs and the assessments and so on. From my understanding and talking to our curriculum folks yesterday, the national standards are pretty general, like the ELRs were. So local districts are going to have to, again, come back and put those into power standards and develop pacing guides for how we're going to implement that curriculum. We've also found that the alignment between the national standards and the state standards in language arts is about 80%. That's pretty good. But in math, it's only about 60%.
So our standard
is different.
Is 60% different,
alignment.
or 40% different
40%
from the
different.
national standard.
So
okay.
There's a lot of alignment work that needs to take place, and hopefully that'll take place at the state level, because if it takes place at the district level, then it's going to look a lot different from one district to another.
When you talk about alignment, you literally mean curriculum development to meet the standard. I don't want to say teach to the test, because that seems to be, but if this is the national standard, then our curriculum needs to evolve to this place to meet that standard.
We're also looking at the assessments to become more rigorous again. We cut back on the length of the WASL and so on. We're expecting that the new Smarter Balance assessments will ratchet back up a little bit too. So.
But it's impacted graduation requirements. We
Yeah.
were having that discussion before we started, and you brought up an interesting point.
Yeah, I think that one of the interesting things is as we look at our graduation requirements, it's been evolving and changing for all these classes as they go through. So each group of seniors that comes through, I think through the last 4 years, has had a different standard, and I think that will continue to be a trend that will continue to look as as they look and work the system and kind of redefine what education looks like in the Common Core piece. I do want to speak a little bit to the Smarter Balance assessment. I think it will be more rigorous, but one thing that we don't really know what that looks like, but we know it will be an online piece is what we believe, and it will be a series of assessments throughout the year. So it'll be more progress monitoring of students as they go through the year. So you'll be able to get more immediate feedback, which is a positive, because now in our assessment cycle, Johnny takes the test or Sally takes the test. We may not get that information back where it can be really useful. Right. So this ongoing process will be much more beneficial to districts as they get that. There are challenges with the online piece, as we find that, because infrastructures and things have to change. And
just having the technology to support that.
So that'll be an interesting thing. But I know that Raj will speak to this too, and I'll probably steal a little bit of his thunder. I know that those of us that have a large contingency of military or transit community, the Common Core, getting those aligned to those other 46 or 47 states has really been something they've been asking for. If you move in from another state, now the standards are different again, and this will allow us to do a better job of taking the student as they come into our districts, welcoming them, and really plugging them into an educational system that will benefit instead of kind of trying to find that piece with our own assessments and trying to match that up. So there are some positives to this. I think that Mike is really correct when he says that there are still a lot of challenges, and hopefully most of that will be done at the state level, because I don't know if we have the capacity at the district level to do that, to make it all look the same. So,
Raj, jump in.
I think that I agree with Mike that there is real positive side to this, because there is so much movement of students out of state, especially in our case, 13% military kids coming in, going out. So it will really help. But I think this whole the testing sort of environment and the graduation requirements has been a moving target for some time, and our hope is that after 3-4 years it will settle down, and then we can sort of get on with the work. So on a national level and state level it'd be good. I believe as Mike said earlier, that alignment, our people have been working, and a lot of this is aligned, and we need to still do some of the more work. So I, in some way, stabilizing, this whole testing environment and getting more frequent sort of feedback on student progress, and technology, of course. We'll talk about that later. But it's more of we need more, better technology, computers, and that's a cost, and that again goes back to the state funding and those kind of issues.
And and where are you going to find that?
Yes.
It's like one more thing.
Yes.
Bill, how about in your district?
One of the things, as I mentioned, having to make some budget choices this year that related to the new evaluation process. The Common Core standards is another one. They were developed really by the National Governors Association and the Chief State School Officers, which are the Superintendent of Public Instructions from around the country. And kind of everybody bought into it. The federal government put some incentives in there. If you wanted to apply for federal funding, you would need to adopt the Common Core standards. And so it's nice, and it's nice to have some alignment, but we've already started in our district to look at the reading Common Core standards in anticipation that that was going to move forward. And we just did kindergarten, first and second grade, and it takes a significant amount of time for our teachers to sit down and go through that. Now, it was a really valuable process, and I think it's going to be positive, but it also means that we have to provide time for them to do that, and so there are sub-costs and professional development costs to do that. So that's impacting our budget.
Well, it seems to be a moving target,
Yes.
and
Yes,
it's like
is.
there's always a new evaluation.
Yeah.
We know that technology plays an important role in education and in our global economy. How are you all incorporating the use of new technology in the classrooms? And what are some challenges around this relative to getting our students ready for 21st century jobs? So I'll start with you, Raj.
Well, first of all, I want to say that as part of our levy, when we were discussing levy, we never really asked for the maximum amount, but it's close to that now, and the community supported. Part of that money will go to technology, because it is becoming absolutely critical to have right computers and the infrastructure to support it. From embedding, sort of technology into our teaching side, one of the things which I'm really inspired is, I'm sure my colleagues know this, that this whole sort of online lessons and videos, this particular one which has been quite a bit talked about around the country, Khan Academy. This is not a money-making, it's a non-profit organization. And we are using some of that, but also our staff, our coaches, our master teachers, sort of, you know, they are creating our own little videos, so students can access them. The challenge in all of this, so there are a lot of wonderful ways we are using online and videos to really help our students, especially in mathematics, and you know, which is a lot of struggle for a lot of kids. The challenge part on the technology, I look at this, is we have to consistently upgrade. We have to, you know, we as a system we're really behind, and so that is one of our main focus areas for us as a system, that to have that technology available for all students. And then the other part I want to say, there is an equity issue. Some kids at homes may not have that access, so we have to provide in schools whatever time they can use. So there are a lot of positive things about technology, but there are also costs associated with it. So.
Well, you know, doing what I do, I completely understand that.
Yes.
You know, it's hard to keep ahead of the technology curve. Mike?
I guess maybe the best way to say it is that hardware-wise, we're probably where we were in 2008 in the Tumwater School District, and we've been able to maintain that level. And we're pretty proud of the fact that we've been able to maintain. But in terms of expanding on the technology, we haven't been able to do that. We need to define what a teacher workstation should look like. The computer, the teacher computer, document camera, smart interactive board for every teacher. I mean, that's where we need to be headed, and that's a huge expenditure for all of us in the future to address that. And it's kind of interesting because even though we don't have newer equipment, so to speak, we've basically on a rotation and replaced our current equipment, and we're doing a pretty good job with that. We're not expanding, but the world around us is expanding rapidly. Our kids go home and go online and get tutorials and support for their work in mathematics or whatever. Teachers are communicating now via electronically with our students all the time. So it's evolving as we're sitting here, and we need to somehow keep up with that. Another part of discussion that we don't know a lot about, but we need to talk about, is student handheld technology and how that can be used and needs to be incorporated into what we do every day as well. It's pretty complex, and a lot of people are a lot brighter than me need to be part of that discussion. So,
well, and the challenge too with technology and the technology infrastructure is not just the piece of equipment. It literally is the physical place. You know, do you have enough electrical in your building to support the rollout of new technologies? Can you get networking, infrastructure to the place where the computer sits? Right. And on buildings that are, you know, even 5 years old, the technology has changed so rapidly. It changes at light speed. You take a computer out of the box, and next week there's a new one. So, you know, I feel for you because yes. We have the same challenges here. Andy, what about technology in Yelm?
Yeah, I think that, I think we've done a really good job. You know, interactive whiteboards, those things are in play. We're replacing all our computers in our elementary labs at this point in time, trying to make sure that we're current. We've got a 3D modeling printer at the high school with our vocational program, a plasma cam up there that's really pretty cool for kids to go in and do in their sheet metal and work in that thing. So on our vocational side, I think they tend to push a little bit, to give kids those opportunities that are going that way. So I think we're okay. One of the, you touched on our problem. Yelm is a community that has one server that comes into it, a provider for all of our community. And so our connectivity to the street, we're really good within our infrastructure. We're fortunate that a lot of our buildings are new, but once we hit the street, to get out of Yelm, we can't really hit the things. There's not fiber available to us on that piece. So some of that slows down what we can do within our district and how that looks as far as when we go out to put 700 students even on a online test at one time, and how we have to balance with our community needs and how that goes. So we don't always understand those things until, like Mike said, there's people that are a lot smarter than me that have to explain that stuff as far as the technology piece goes. But I feel we're as advanced as we can be with our resources and what's available to us at this point in time. But that trend of trying to keep up, I don't know how we'll do that. you know, I mean, that's a piece that, like you said, it's obsolete by tomorrow.
It's like being a surfer. You want to
Right.
stay on top of the wave,
Exactly.
but you know, you've got to be able to catch the wave
Exactly.
to make it to the beach. Bill.
Well, similar kinds of things, and one of the nice parts about our bond is we built in, as we touch the schools, we will help upgrade our technology infrastructure. So that's a real benefit. Some of the kinds of things that are going on, just wanted to highlight a couple. One of which is we have more and more of our classes taking virtual field trips. One of our teachers was doing a unit on the United States. They studied Alaska, and then they connected with a classroom in Alaska. As you know, Alaska's got a lot of technology because of their distances and that type of thing. But that teacher connected, and so those two classes had a week-long conversation about what their culture was like. It was a remote native Alaskan village. And so those are the kinds of things, the technology allows the world to come in with us without us having to spend the airfare and go see them, kind of thing. And then as Andy had mentioned, in his secondary program, we've also been fortunate, our career and technical education department has been able to buy their 3D printers. And what they do is they actually build a model. And we have at one of our schools an instructor that had the kids build a car, and then they took it into the wood shop and made the car. They took the model, then they took it in the wood shop, made the car, and then they put it in the wind tunnel or something
Right.
that did that to see the aerodynamic thing. They had predicted what it was going to be, then they actually printed it, built it, and then they saw the difference between what they printed. So those kinds of things. We're fortunate in Olympia because our community a few years ago passed a technology levy. So we've been able to get those kinds of things or work our career and technical education funds to move forward with technology. So it's really exciting, but how do you keep up? That is the big issue. And for those kids, like Raj said, you know, in the Olympia School District, we have a lot of kids don't have technology at home. And so that's a challenge that we're looking at. How do we make sure those kids, we're not creating a technology divide.
Right. How do you close the digital divide?
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know too, and living here in Washington, because we have you know, such luminaries in the development of technology like Gates and Paul Allen and, you know, the folks who did rail networks. I mean, there's just, you know, I think we don't realize that the kind of impact that has just on us as a community. Our approach to technology is very different. I'm from a small town in southeastern Ohio, and they don't think like we think here when it comes to technology because it's not such a huge part of just the fabric of the community. So, well, congratulations on being able to try to, you know, maintain. We're coming up to the end of the school year, and as we wrap up the year, I'm wondering if there's anything you are particularly proud of. And I do want to save the last few minutes to have a conversation with Bill, since this is his last day at the table with us. But Raj, I'll start with you, or actually let me start with Mike. As we come up to the end of the school year, anything you're particularly proud of this year in the Tumwater District?
Yeah, well, lots of things.
Lots
but
of
but
things.
a couple of things come out. We had 5 schools recognized for state level awards this year. We had 2 schools of distinction, East Olympia Elementary and Black Hills High School, for sustained improvement or continuous growth in student learning over a 5 or 6 year period. That was a great award for those 2 schools. And then we had East Ole, Tumwater Hill, and Secondary Options, our alternative school, recognized with Washington Achievement Awards for the elementaries for closing the achievement gap, and the alternative school for extended graduation rate. So the other thing that I'm really proud of is I've been able to be an active member of kind of our local district TPEP, our Teacher Principal Evaluation Group. And we have 13 teachers and 9 administrators, and that group is really working well together. I'm very, very happy, and I believe if you talk to our teachers that they would reflect the same feelings, that we're a very cohesive group and we're headed in the right direction and our focus is where it needs to be. So I'm real proud of that work that we've started. We've just started. We have a lot of work to do, but thank you.
Andy?
Yeah.
End of another year?
Yeah, it's been great. I think our staff, this has been a chaotic time funding-wise, and they've just kept the blinders on to the outside world and kept their focus on kids. And because of that, I think our system has improved in Yelm greatly. We're, systemic K-12, I think there's starting to be a cohesion there, especially alignment around math, which has been tremendous. And I really appreciate that focus, because it would be very easy to get lost in all the legislative and funding and, the cry wolf, I guess, bad things. I shouldn't use that with my name, but honestly, they didn't do that. They held the line. And then one little short story is we have a teacher named Ed Berg out there who was my teacher when I went to Yelm. And this year he was recognized as the civic educator of the state of Washington. And I will just tell you that he's a phenomenal man in the fact that his engagement of kids, I think, wants you to get involved in that process. When you come out of his class, you're a participant in what's happening in our state and what in that whole piece, and you are a contributor and not just a student. He brings you into that speed, and I just really value the world that he's in and what he's passed on for 30 plus years. I won't say how many because he wouldn't appreciate that, but you know what? He's just an amazing man and an award that was really deserving. So.
Well, they say teaching is a calling. When you've put 30 plus years in, you've definitely been called.
Yes.
Bill, something in your district you want to share?
Well, there are a couple of things. We started a new middle school advanced math and science program this year that has just taken off like gangbusters. I'm really proud of that. We started it at 6th grade, and we had 60 kids that wanted to get into it, and so now we're expanding to 7th grade, and we have more than 60 kids.
Is this the one up at Jefferson?
Jefferson, yes. And so obviously we hit a need in our community and continued to provide a variety of options for kids. We really do have quite a few alternative programs in the Olympia School District. And then I just want to reiterate as well what the others have talked about as far as staff goes. The last several years have been really challenging years, and they have continued to zero in and focus and do a really good job. We've got, actually, I made a list, and we have four people that were recognized in their field as Teachers of the Year or administrators. And so they're focusing on what's going on in Olympia. They're respected by their peers and helping across the state as well as leadership roles. So particularly proud of those in our schools that received recognition. We didn't have 5, we had 3, but it's been a good year.
Got lots of schools in our districts. Raj, how about you?
Well, I would also start by saying that being in a difficult financial situation, our employees gave us back about $1 million in salary cuts and freezes. So I just want to recognize each and every one of them. And so given that, one of my biggest concern was, how do we carry on the focus? But it is really amazing, as both Andy and Bill have said, they kept their focus on student learning because it's their passion. So we as a system, we are focused on whole child, and that means we have created this positive behavior intervention system throughout the school system, and also sport for kids who are struggling on the academic side, RTI, response to intervention. That has been amazing success. It's a system-wide, every classroom, every school, to maintain focus on that and then see the wonderful results on the behavior side. But also, as an example, I just got the data that we are already down by 45 to 50% in referrals to special ed. That means our people are doing the right thing. When kids are behaving well, it's not that the tendency is, well, this kid is trouble, so
behavioral problem.
So yeah. I think it's just amazing success. And the other thing I want to say is that while doing all of this work, staying focused on mathematics and science and student sport, community engagement, which was again shown in our sport for levies, one of the things I really want to say that we as a state and we as a nation haven't really galvanized everyone on that is the culture of the school system. We have been very intentional that it's a shared leadership at every level. It doesn't matter, bus driver or a food worker, they all can help our kids, in some ways. So when people feel that their job is not just what they do, their job is part of the bigger mission of the system. And that I'm really inspired to watch our people do. And then also our students and teachers have been honored at all levels. You know, journalism, our Timberline student paper has been ranked consistently in the top 8, 9, 5th, 6th, and I think last year was 8th or something nationally. And then mathematics, River Ridge and North Thurston kids, they qualified at the state level and number 2 or something, and then now nationally they've been invited. So it's really inspiring. And then art side, of course, the theater, and we have a lot of people who have been supporting all this wholesome education, where kids are not only just on the academic side, but also on the art and the music and other programs. So I'm really inspired by all of that.
Well, it takes a village. It takes a village, and it takes a robust and enthusiastic school district and parents and everybody else. Well, we're at that point in the program where we're going to kind of bring it to an end. And normally I ask each of you for a special story from the school year. But as many of our viewers may know, Bill announced his retirement and will be leaving the Olympia School District at the end of the school year. So I'm asking you if you have a special story about Bill, or your involvement or engagement with Bill, or something that you've seen in the Olympia School District that you might want to share. And Andy, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think my favorite memory, and I'm going to get the character wrong, but I went to the Olympia play and Bill was in that, and I can't remember what your character was, Tweedledee or...
I was Tweedledum.
You Tweedledum. And I pondered on that about his retirement, but as he came bouncing off the stage afterward, and I was seeing him, you know, and I thought, you know, that takes a great man to put themselves up to that, but also to go back. But that's one of my I have a great picture of it actually that I took that still hangs in our office that we laugh at. But anyway, no, that was one of my things. And I just do appreciate the fact that when I came on as a superintendent not that long ago, that Bill was very welcoming, extended leadership piece, and just really was a person, you know, for all of us, we're fairly new to this area. You know, I was coming back, but Bill's been here and he's been steady. He's been a rock for all of us and a cornerstone, and I appreciate that piece, and I wish him the best of luck.
Thanks, Andy. Mike?
Well, I'm new, probably newest to the area. Been in the Tri-Cities for the previous 12 years prior to the last 2 years here, and I had the good fortune of meeting Bill's better half a few years ago, Mickey, and got to know her quite well through when she was working at OSPI, and she was the 123 region's representative. So got to have a good relationship, I think, with Mickey and how well she represented OSPI in our region and back. And I'd heard of Bill, but I had not met Bill. But when I came over here, when I was first hired, Bill was the first superintendent to reach out to me. He took me to lunch, and we had a great discussion. The rapport has been excellent since then. And frankly, even though he's going to be in retirement, I, for one, am going to be probably calling Bill and, you know, asking his advice on some things as we move forward. So thanks, Bill.
Raj?
And this is my 3rd year, and as has been said, Bill is our senior guy locally here, so we all reached out to him and he reached out to us. And the thing I really think about Bill is always a wonderful smile on his face. And I look at him as a community leader because his work in United Way and other things he has done. So not only, we all sort of have to do different things, but I really admired you, Bill, for doing that kind of work for our community. And I absolutely agree with Andy and Mike that he's here, and hopefully we can continue to call on him because we have become a very close-knit group, and we will maintain that. And so thank you, Bill, for everything you have been doing for. And also I think I was just teasing him, not teasing him, and admiring his work, that before he's retiring, he got this levy and 4-year levy and the bond. And the new superintendent coming in, you know, the system is stable and there's capital money available to do the construction of schools. So I'm sure the community appreciates, and we all appreciate your work.
That's
Thank
a
you.
wonderful legacy to leave for your successor.
Yes.
Well, it's your turn.
Oh.
So I'm just wondering if you have any, special comments you'd like to share with us as you consider your career here in Olympia and I think we all want to know, what are you going to do as of like July 1? What's
Yeah.
what's the first big plan?
Sleep in.
Or does your wife have plans? I'm wondering if there's a list that's growing. So.
Yeah. Well, it's been a great run. I've been here 11 years as the superintendent in Olympia. I started my teaching career in Tumwater, and so this Thurston County's really been home. Both of my kids were born here in Thurston County, and my wife and I got married when we were in this area, and so it's just a wonderful place. I've really enjoyed it. The Olympia community has been so supportive that it's helped make my job easier. The thing that I guess I think about and appreciate the most has been the relationships that I've developed with the staff in Olympia School District. As Raj said, it really is a community, and whether you're a bus driver, a cook, custodian, secretary, playground aide, teacher, administrator, everybody that I work with is pulling together to do the best for kids. And I know that goes on in all kinds of school districts, but there seems to be a special relationship here in the Olympia School District that I've not felt. I've been a superintendent in 2 other districts, and it's stronger here than what I've seen in other districts. So I'm proud that both my kids graduated from the Olympia School District. I think it's a wonderful place. Thurston County is a wonderful place. In the 10 years that I was gone out being a superintendent in other districts, I've seen just tremendous improvement. I don't know if that's the right word, but growth and collaboration in school districts throughout Thurston County. When I arrived 11 years ago, that was not necessarily the case. There was some communication that was going on. But to get to work with these gentlemen and to see what's going on in education in Thurston County is really, really rewarding and wants me to make me stay here. So we're going to stay. We're going to be part of the community. On July 1st, I'm probably going to sleep in. No, it's one to where I'll actually read some books other than education journals. I want to learn Spanish. And so I can go and travel. Mickey and I plan to do some traveling, and then we'll see what happens from there. Okay. So it's more of a graduation rather than a retirement.
Yeah, well, that's actually a good way to look at it. Well, I know I speak for all of us when we want to thank you for your service to the students of the Greater Olympia School District, and your support in the community and your work in the community as a member of the community. I live right up the hill from the district office, so I drive by and I'm always amazed at all the little goings on at the Madison School there, the garden and all this kind of stuff. And it's such a nice little representation of the kinds of things that happen in our district. So thank you so much for your efforts and your tireless gift, actually, of your time and your talents, and have a great time when that alarm clock doesn't have to go off at 5 in the morning or earlier on those icy days.
Yeah,
so
I won't miss talking to these guys on that.
So what are you guys gonna do? It's like, it's their problem.
Don't call me. Take me off your speed dial.
I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the Superintendent's Roundtable, the last one of the year, and I know we'll see you in the fall, and we'll see you in the fall when we bring you the next roundtable. There will be a new face at the table. Remember, if you're the parent of a preschool child, read with your child 20 minutes a day. It's one of the best things you can do to prepare them for their education. And toss in some number games so they get interested in math. If you're the parent of a school-age child, get involved. There are many ways that parents and family can volunteer at the schools. Call your school principal or go online to the school websites to find out how you can be involved in your child's education. For all of us here at the Roundtable, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the fall.